die. You know, usually when Netflix releases something bad, people talk about it. I guess it's me. I'm people. I also just saw a tweet that said Elvis is also making a video, so I guess we'll see who gets there. He's probably gonna release his before mine because I'm letting the art of 365 simmer for like a little bit. So Choose or Die, which originally had the much more unique title of cursr. That'll be funny in a minute, we'll get there. And even though this wasn't a good movie, it was certainly bad in a way that was like almost super fun. Like I certainly laughed at a lot of it. It's got a premise with so much potential and then they have no idea what to do with it. This was originally supposed to be a series on Quibi, if that gives you any indication of what to expect. I'm also always down to check out a horror movie with a fun premise. So what we're working with is like a horror Jumanji choose your own adventure. It feels a lot like adult Goosebumps. And I mean that like the logistics and execution of a story for children with the themes and visuals for big kids. I mean adults. Basically, there is a tech-style adventure game that starts you off with like some seemingly basic options before quickly becoming sinister. And if you don't make a choice, you die. Bet you didn't see that one coming. And honestly, fine idea, lots of promise. If we can have an STD murder ghost, we can have reality-altering murder games. Like, hell, we've had that for decades. But people just generally don't seem to be enjoying this so much, and that goes for both critics and audiences, and I can't say that I blame them. Oddly enough, this is something that the more I've entrenched myself in the writing process of it, like the less things make sense, but like the mysteries are tantalizing enough that I'm like, oh, I really want to know what's happening. Then there's an aspect to the ending that just seems to swoop in out of nowheres to slap you in the face with a message that they very much wanted injected, even if it didn't really fully tie into like the greater theme that they seem to be going for. I also feel like it's constantly killing off any of the tension that it establishes because it's got this thing where it's going to be like really brutal to the characters that we don't really know. And then it starts treating these central characters with like kids' gloves to a certain extent. The game should get more intense as it goes on, not less. And that's unfortunate because we deserve good horror. And lucky for you, I have the solution with today's sponsor, Shudder. Shudder is the streaming service with the best selection of horror, thriller, supernatural movie series, and originals. Whether you're into the big Hollywood installments, cult classics, or the critically and audience acclaimed, Shudder has new movie selections that you won't find anywhere else, uncut and commercial free. Every week, Shudder has an exclusive movie premiere. This past week, they dropped The Twin, which if you're into horrifying folk horrors with cult infusion, it is definitely worth your time. It tells the story of a couple relocating to the Scandinavian countryside following tragedy for a fresh start. And of course, more horrific tragedy ensues. For just $5.99, you get commercial-free access to the best selection of horror from all around the world, including some of my all-time favorites like Scream, The Invitation, Train to Busan, Brotherhood of the Wolf. Basically, whatever your horror taste, Shudder's got you covered. So if you want to check out Shudder for yourself, head on over to shudder.com. That is SHUDDER.com and use promo code JEDI to get 30 days completely free. But let's hop into the movie. So it starts with a mom and son fighting, as kids do. But then this motherfucker just kicks back and lights up a cigarette at the kitchen table. Cigarettes and Coca-Cola, the American way. I'm sorry, this kid must be in high school. Like, how far gone is the situation where the kid can just light up during an argument? See, Mom, I wasn't that bad as a teenager. So right from the get-go, I feel like the tone was set for my experience, and it was the tone of hilarity. They're arguing about some horrible thing that he's done, but then it like flips to them shitting on the dad.
And your father did nothing.
Ha! He's too busy living in the 80s.
Son, I almost called the cops on you, but at least you're not your fucking nerd father. I also just love that he's like peeking through the door like, ooh, don't be mean to me. Doesn't bother intervening or helping, just wanders back into his nerd cave. And the creepy thing he's up to today is some kind of tape called cursr. Reality is cursed. Get it? It's like cursor because it's a computer cursor game and it's cursed. Let's keep moving. So it's basically one of those old like text adventure games where you enter prompts to continue the story. But it starts to autofill his actions as he's making them. Ooh, spooky. It even magically pops him a new beer out of nowhere for like the really hard day he's having, ignoring his family. Obviously, the innocent questions will dry up fairly quickly. Dude doesn't seem remotely concerned enough that this thing can control everything around him, including mixing in audio from his family to his music.
It's Gary Newman.
He fucks his vinyl more than you.
God damn the insult. I feel like that was uncalled for, but who knows? When suddenly the game asks his tongue, her ears. And if he doesn't choose, he dies. So after barraging his head with loud screeching, it cuts to him walking out of the room to find that his wife has cut out their son's tongue. You know what? I think she probably still could have heard if you chose ears, but you know what? Hey, congratulations, you beat level 1. You're all set to keep going tomorrow. Man, at least Jumanji had like a clever rhyme to let you know not to fuck with it. Now, if you don't pay attention to the opening credits, you are actually going to lose a fair amount of context. Basically goes through the other levels that he had to beat. So level 2 was Laura's flesh or Gabe's arm. And then level 3 is her head or his eyes. So obviously kid's eyes gotta go. And then finally, the more important bit here is that he's given the option to keep torturing his family or make copies of the games to stop it. So obviously he chooses to make copies, and it leaves us with your family is safe for now. And it's 3 months later. So this is our main character, Kayla. She works as an overnight cleaner and then heads to this creepy little hideaway computer place, which is apparently Asa Butterfield's apartment and work location. He's got a bunch of tech junk. Like, I kind of imagine that this is how Peter Parker's life would look if he had the same bad luck and punctuality, but without all the spider powers. They have a cute little back and forth about Run DMC before we realize that she too does coding and programming, but can't get a job because she dropped out of school. But in the pile of stuff that he has to fix and sell, they come across a copy of Cursor.
She's got a good name.
Did I detect a British accent slip up? That's okay, he's allowed. But it isn't just that it's a game, it also says that anyone who can last 5 days and lift the curse wins $125,000. Seems legit. But I guess there's history of there being unclaimed prizes on weird old games, so they call the number and oh my god, it's a message from Robert Englund, aka Freddy Krueger. Okay, when I saw him listed and prominently featured in like the cast list, I assumed he was acting in the movie, not being himself.
You are worthy.
Is this all he's in it for? Is it just his voice on an answering message? Ooh, it's me from the future. Yeah, Robert Englund ain't in this. We all got baited to shit. But of course, his inclusion adds a degree of legitimacy to the game and the potential for the prize. So they plan to meet up at a diner later on to get started on the game. Also, they're not dating. He just clearly wishes they were. So she heads back to her place, which is not in the best shape. Like, there's rats in the hallway. They have an eviction notice on the fridge, which I noticed something about. We'll get to in a second. You'll find out that Kayla's younger brother died, and now the mom's gotten addicted to drugs and doesn't work. So that $125K prize would be life-changing. And when she heads to work that day, it's pointed out that every single night they come in and they clean this completely empty office building, and they have no idea why. It then very slowly closes in on the title of the office space, Kismet, which I notice is also the name of the company on their eviction notice. What could it mean? By the end, seemingly nothing. I will go over some of it, but like, you know, like the word itself means like destiny or fate, and like usually specifically in like a positive karma way, so I feel like it's a little bit of a joke here. Because a curse would be the opposite. We've got some good wordplay here. But she heads to the diner after work and starts converting the game so it'll work on her lap toy, and Nerd Boy has totally sketched on her because he's too invested in his game design, and that might be good because I'm sensing some strong flirtation from the waitress here.
I'd let you sit there all night, but my asshole boss wakes up and menu's right there.
Is she, you know? Anyways, as with Man-Child, the game loads up and starts describing her location and altering reality. Everything being said starts to appear on screen. She assumes she's bugging out from sleep deprivation, and the game asks if she'd like to take a break. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. No. She tries shutting the laptop to get away from it, and it transports her to, like, Dagobah, I guess. Just lots of fog. Oh my god, it's like online bullying. It's still there, even when you log off. But then you just hear this child voice from the mist.
You have to choose, Kayla.
I'll be honest, I lost it. I started laughing so hard before I realized that this is like definitely her deceased younger brother. But there's just something about the delivery that just struck the hilarity inside me. It's like a sitcom trying to do a creepy voice. You have to choose, Kayla. So she still ends up choosing break, which apparently means the waitress breaking things. Oh no. And tragically, when she chooses the option cleanup, that was also seemingly the wrong response. Yeah, she's gonna start eating the glass, which then results in her death. What did this poor girl do to deserve this on level 1? This seems like a great game for sociopaths. If you don't give a shit about what happens to other people, apparently you're on a golden train to 125K. So the death is ruled as a suicide. 'Cause sure. And the movie will never be that brutal again. So she goes to leave for work the next day, and this creepo Lance is waiting in the hall.
There's no cure for what your mama's got. I got the medicine.
It's like they put out a casting call for dudes who play the assaultist in college safety PSAs. It's like the kind of guy they'd put in the Big Bang Theory to make the main cast look less creepy and shitty to women. No peace for Kayla even at work though. In the middle of her shift, she gets a call from her mom complaining about the rats in the walls again, but this time you can actually hear them. And suddenly there is a computer running cursor in the middle of the room. And wow, it looks like her mom is actually being attacked by a giant rat. Or a swarm of rats, like that Plague video game. And instead of controlling the mom, she's controlling the rat in this overhead game and needs to navigate her mom to safety, but her mom won't fucking move. So eventually she just has to jump out the window and somehow doesn't die. So Kayla ends up downloading the game onto her phone, which seems unnecessary because it will clearly just take over regardless of where you are, but okay, yeah, sure, we'll make it convenient. Then there's just this like overly drawn out walk through her apartment that's supposed to be building tension, but it like doesn't really seem to at all. Like it's pretty cool. You see the prompts that have been like carved into the wall from the game, and like the door is actually chewed. Obviously nothing's in there anymore, except Lance, the literal walking slug.
I gotta report it. Unless...
Fuck you.
Maybe. What are you worth?
Also, yeah, this movie has definitely got some kind of Coca-Cola sponsorship. So Isaac finally believes her after seeing pictures of her mom's place, but he couldn't find a single thing about the game online or anything in the code to suggest that it's like modern tech. So their plan is to separate the analog loading sound because it can have its own hidden data. Then we have what I assume has to be the most intense form of foreshadowing. Isaac talking about the game that he's building and says that if people want to cheat, it's gonna cost them. It's going to hurt. Who wants to bet that trying to find insider information from the game code is gonna count as cheating?
Hey, this is our song.
We don't have a song.
We listened to this like 4 times.
Oh, this poor bastard. But suddenly it's 2 a.m. They extract the audio and a slew of symbols start popping up on the screen, but there's like no time to try to decipher them because it's time for level 3. And obviously, because Isaac's here this time, she chooses help. Isaac gets pulled into the game. And suddenly 2 doors present themselves.
Never pick red. Trust me.
He says while wearing a red sweater. But he tries to pick blue and it doesn't open, and something whispers die from the other side, so they're not really given a choice here. And then what we get is a drawn out scene of them traipsing through the mists of Dagobah again, but it's actually just the pool where Kayla's brother drowned. They obviously get separated. Isaac gets spider-monkeyed by the ghost manifestation of the dead brother. Then Kayla is given the option, save Ricky or Isaac. Obviously, Ricky has been dead for a while, so she picks Isaac, which is when this ghost Ricky attacks her and she has to kill him and witness that all over again. Since she blames herself for him drowning because she wasn't looking at the pool, this is obviously dredging up a lot of mental trauma, but at least everyone's unharmed. Like, what kind of little bitch game is this? This is so tame compared to level 1, and we're at 3. Dude at the beginning had no options that didn't involve his family being grievously injured. So the new plan is to hack the phone number listed to claim the prize, which leads them to where the message is being sent from.
You doing this because you want to help me or you want to get with me?
Ooh. bug. So they bust into this seemingly abandoned location and stumble upon a bunch of research stuff and a cassette titled Cursor Beta 1. And this is one of those scenes that should exist to answer like a lot of questions, but mostly opens up so many more, which they want to handle in a sequel, but who knows if they're gonna get greenlit for it. So this dude on the tape named Beck starts explaining that they found a curse but can't uncover its origins or meaning. Just that it's some centuries-old dormant power. The symbols they'd unlocked earlier all mean something different, like fire, water, blood, and they affect reality. And whoever wields the curse benefits the more they make the cursed suffer. Again, it's a perfect little game for sociopaths. But I want to point out that their way of making this footage look like it was shot in the 80s was to add a really bad filter to it. I feel like you could have done better, guys. But their genius idea was to convert the symbols into a horror video game. There's no explanation as to why they went that route, but they learned to control it. There's lots of logistic issues in terms of it being a game and not being directly controlled by the cursor, but the curse itself. But sure, we'll chill. Like, I know right now it seems like he's directly controlling it, but if they were sending out like multiple different copies of this around to find somebody to be cursed, like, could he actually take the time to be controlling every single one of these games like that people are running? Like, maybe? And Beck seems horrified in a way that may suggest that he's on the receiving end, but no, he's got some poor schmuck locked in a room starving. So he gets the option, eat the computer or eat your arm. And the idiot chooses his arm, and the shit just like instantly idle hands, and he can't stop himself from chowing down. It's like real top-notch stuff here. So while this is happening, Beck cut open his arm, and as the dummy is eating himself, the blood sucks back into the cut and heals itself.
Sometimes a curse can be a gift.
Sociopath! But Kayla and Isaac realize what symbols are the command prompts so they could theoretically manipulate the game, but then it's time for level 4. And they're back in 1984, and the curse knows they tried to cheat. Literally starts spitting Nerd Boy's words right back at him.
If you want to cheat,
How's he doing that?
it's gonna hurt.
If you want to cheat, like it's gonna hurt.
Foreshadowing. So Isaac goes all retro digital, and Kayla is given the option to rewind or fast forward. So she fast forwards, and he just starts projectile vomiting VHS tape. So she flips rewind and then fast forward again. Literally just playing paper cut with his insides here. This scene is a mess on so many levels, and this poor little shit is gonna die.
I totally turned you on to Run DMC.
Ah yes, a lovely callback to the beginning of the movie and fantastic final words. But now it's time for the boss battle. I think she just left his body there. So the game gives her coordinates that lead to this house, which may look familiar because it's this house. And our lovely family from the beginning is just seated around the dinner table, and the kid has paper cutouts over his missing eye and tongue, and the wife has some kind of like fake skin over her like burned face. And the creepy motherfucker who seems to have them terrified, like the wife even tries to stab him, suggesting that they've just been held hostage these past 3 months and no one's checked in. He's very confused that the game has sent her there, and that if it did, she may have been what it was looking for all along. Okay. There's also no explanation as to why he has this like total control over the family now, instead of being like, ooh, woo, I'm sorry, I unleashed a cursed power upon you, please forgive me. No time to dwell though, because it's time to fight. And he is super confused that he's not the hero. This is where it feels really dumb in terms of the themes of the movie. He starts going on, aren't guys like me allowed to be the hero anymore? And I get what they're going for. They are definitely commenting on a certain section of individuals, and a lot of people who do believe that there is a shortage of this particular brand of hero. Though I don't think out of shape aging family neglectors have ever been the hero, my guy. It just felt weird.
You know, in the 80s.
Fuck the 80s.
Fuck the 80s!
Okay, that's funny. It's just like how shocked and offended he is that she'd dare insult the only era of time that he loves. Like, what a hard pivot. Like, I guess in ways it kind of fits in. Like, she's pushing through poverty, class, and race issues, while this dude in his secluded little modern mini mansion is whining in his little loser cave. But the rest of the movie doesn't really feel like it's playing into that rant or even like a particularly strong love of the 80s. So it's time to battle, and she's given the option of him or you.
Choose or die.
Oh my God. So I don't even think she made the choice, but whatever they try to do to the other hurts them instead. So they start laying into themselves. His kid's dealing with some real conflicting feelings and doesn't know who to hurt, but the wife sure knows what she wants. Too bad she can't shoot at point blank range. And just when he thinks he's won by slitting his own throat, she grabs this pointless lawn statue and falls into the pool, so he land drowns. Actually, a large number of drownings occur in very small bodies of water. So also there's the fun little parallel there that her little brother died by drowning, and then she theoretically almost died in a pool, but then he died instead. Yeah. It then cuts away to his computer where the game says, "You are dead. Sorry." So Kayla wins, and the prize isn't money, tragically. It's the game cursor/command prompt. She has the power to code and control the curse, and immediately uses it to make Lance faceplant on a bunch of his dirty needles that for some reason he has face up in the sink. Okay. Also, he was sniffing panties in her room. This is a cartoon level perv. So she's just instantly healed of all her injuries. The cop finds Lance and just immediately starts to puke. Wussy. But I guess killing him healed her mom, a life for the life, and starts putting her life back on track. And then cuts back to a conversation that she had with Isaac about using her powers wisely. When she gets a call from Beck, the guy from the beta tape, and the dude who seems to own Kismet, aka the company that owns the building that she had been working in, and her apartment complex.
Somehow you managed to beat my game. Tell me, who will suffer next?
Dude, I think you were doing plenty fine, bro. You are a slummy landlord. You are making out like a king. But of course, she says that the only ones who will suffer are the people who deserve it. So it's like lame Death Note now instead of Jumanji. Cool, fun. I have a video about Death Note, check it out. I feel like Kismet is some kind of joke about him controlling destiny. So if he designed this game, can it run independently of him? And then even though he's not actively doing things, does he still benefit? But if he's the one directly controlling it, it kind of explains why there'd be some inconsistent logistics and rules. But now that she has control of the game to curse other people, do they both prosper? Does he stop prospering? I have no idea. Is this the curse splitting off? Then why does he want to go together? I know at one point Lance said that he was gonna have to let the landlord know about the apartment being trashed. So that could be Beck, even though I would assume he would have employees dealing with all of his different properties, but maybe that's how he was getting info, even though the game just seems to be able to tap into that kind of stuff naturally. But maybe Kayla was specifically chosen, even though that doesn't necessarily really make sense because Buddy found the game. So unless they set it up for Buddy to find the game, then why didn't they just set it up for Buddy to find the game before Hal made the copies to send them out? See what I mean? It's I don't like looking for a bunch of plot holes, but it's just one of those things that I want to know how everything is connected. And when I start looking into all of these little threads, they fray. But obviously the movie is trying to suggest that there is some grand connection to the fact that Beck seems to own Kismet, her apartment complex is owned by Kismet, and she is cleaning a building owned by Kismet. Really leaving a lot open to a sequel, but I don't know if they're gonna get one based on the reception. And I know that they make sequels for things that are poorly received all the time, but I don't know if this got the numbers to back that up the same way other bad things do. I am personally super interested to find out all the background stuff. If they just wanted to write that all out, I would read the shit out of it. If you guys aren't super offended by this video, if you want to I will not tell anyone. If you just want to write some stuff out, but I would love that. And if they make the movie, I would just like some of those ideas to be executed a lot better. I like mysteries. And I know that they do have an entire background for the curse going back centuries with early people desperately in need, eating leather. But the movie just got really muddled. This really only needed to focus in on that morality thing with choosing who's worthy of certain fates and God complexes. How much suffering are you willing to inflict on another person to get out of a shit position and the abuse of power? And then they just kind of went on. It feels like they got lost. They got a little lost. That is going to do it for me. Not the worst thing that I've watched, and I got some pretty solid laughs out of it. I just really want to solve a mystery, but there doesn't seem to be a way to do so, which isn't always a problem for movies. I'm fine with things being left up to interpretation, and I have fun with that. But when you add so many little puzzle pieces and hints and teases, but then don't really tie them together, it feels like an oversight, especially when your runtime was so low. But that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters. Subscribe to the channel. If you're new, leave a like on the video. If you're into that kind of thing, hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.